Okay, now we're going to zoom into the individual firm. When we're looking at the individual firm, we have to get a couple of new definitions under our belt. Firms are looking at the additional revenue that something gives them, one additional worker will give them, versus the additional cost one additional worker will give them. It's a little different than marginal revenue and marginal cost because that's for an entire industry or entire market. This is for an individual firm, right? So for the individual firm in the labor market, we call it marginal resource cost. That's the cost of actually hiring that worker, right? The additional cost for one additional worker. And so in a perfectly competitive market, MRC or marginal resource cost is actually equal to wage, right? Right here, equal to wage. Why is it equal to wage? It's because all of the workers are unskilled. They have the same skill, which is no skill. And so there's a constant wage there. I cannot demand a higher wage. I cannot earn a higher wage because I'm an unskilled laborer. In fact, we call them wage takers. So as a result, marginal resource cost is going to be wage, and it will not change. It will never change. It's your constant wage. Now, if you're not given the wage, but you're given total cost, it's going to be a change in the total cost that's caused by hiring more workers. So keep that in mind too. So you might have that format switch on you. Just find the change in total cost when you hire more workers, and you should be just fine. And it'll end up being the same number all the way down, and you'll be able to fill it in very quickly. All right, so if we jump over here to marginal resource cost, we were told that the wage was $15, and so that's what it looks like. When I hire one person, it's going to be 15 extra bucks. Hire the second person, 15 extra bucks. Third person, 15 extra bucks. On and on and on it goes. Okay, so that's MRC. Pretty easy, and that's why it's completely horizontal because it's fixed, and I'll show you that in the next video. MRP is marginal revenue product. Marginal revenue product is simply how much additional revenue is that worker, that next worker, worth, or that next resource worth, right? And so we find this in one very particular way. First, we can find it by the change in total revenue, right? So if I'm given total revenue and I see when I hire the additional worker, my total revenue changes by this much, we can attribute it to that person. They've given me this much additional revenue. But what is most common is we actually are given product, how much that person can produce. And so we know that the marginal product times, or the quantity times the price is revenue, right? So if I know the additional quantity or additional product, marginal product they've given me, then I can find the additional revenue they've given me by simply taking marginal product times price, right? So here you can see on this chart, our product went from 7 to 17 when I hired the second worker. So I went from 1 to 2, I went from 7 to 17. That gave me a marginal product of 10. I know my product is, I can sell it for $10 and it's perfectly competitive, so it's the same price all the way down. So it's going to be 10 times 10, my marginal revenue product is 100, right? 10 times 10, multiply those out. The amount that the additional product that person gave me times the amount I can sell it for is the additional revenue that second worker is worth, which is 100. Now, it's also possible to simply look at the change in total revenue. Total revenue was 7 times price. So product times price, so 70. And now it's product 17 times price 10, 170. So I went from 70 to 170. So my marginal revenue product is 100. Okay. Now, keep in mind that this number is going to get smaller and smaller the more you produce because of the law of diminishing returns. As I hire another worker and another worker and another worker, my marginal product goes up at first, but then it consistently diminishes. In the same way, my marginal revenue follows that. Because price is constant, it's going to have the same flow to it. It's going to go up initially and then go down. And that's why we have a downward sloping demand curve for our individual firms. Now, we are always going to employ the amount of resources where MRP equals MRC. Right? So if we look over here, we found our MRP, right? 70, 100, 70, 30, 20, 10, 15, or negative 30, sorry. And now I know my marginal cost is the same at every point. So I need to find where marginal revenue product is equal to marginal resource cost, or where it's close, but cost is not greater than revenue yet, right? Because I will never hire a person if they cost me more than they give me. So as I'm looking at this, it's going to be worker number 5. Because at worker number 5, my MRP is 20, my MRC is 15. They're close, right? But not equal. But if I go to the 6th worker, my marginal revenue product is 10, my marginal resource cost is 15. And so now my costs are greater than my revenue, so I'm not going to hire the 6th worker. I will end up with 5 workers. And that's really the end product of this whole analysis. We want to know how many workers should this firm hire. And that's how you do it in chart form. All right, hope that was helpful. Be able to calculate those two things, identify it on a chart, find the quantity that should be producing there, and then be able to define those two firms. What's marginal revenue product? What's marginal resource cost? And then if I give you wage, know that it's MRC. And then know that MRP is subject to the law of diminishing returns. All right, I hope that was helpful. See ya soon.